Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of our Aquarium Online Academy. My name is Sarah. I'm an educator here at the Aquarium of the Pacific in Long Beach, California, and I'm so excited that you joined us today because we are going to talk about my favorite things to talk about. Now, a lot of times we always say that these are our favorite topics, but we're going to talk about sharks today, and sharks are my absolute favorite thing to talk about of any animal here at the aquarium. Now we're going to go over what makes a shark and the common things we see that help us recognize that these animals are sharks. And then we're going to do something a little different from what we normally do. And we're just going to talk about fun facts. So we have quite a few sharks here at the aquarium, and then we have footage that some of our volunteers and other staff have taken of sharks. And we're going to take a look at some of them and talk about all the fascinating fun facts there are about sharks. Because even though all these sharks have some things in common, which we're going to go over as we learn what makes a shark, they all have different characteristics and colors and body shapes, and so we're going to talk about those fun facts about sharks. Now, I'm not alone here in the studio. I have a lot of help. I have Tiffany, who is behind the computer, and she's going to control everything you see here. And what she's going to do right now is she's going to put up a phone number. Well, it's actually a text number, and we want to hear from you. Now, as we're talking today, if you have any questions about what we're talking about, or if there's a shark you want to talk about, or something that you're curious about, or an observation you want to share, we would love to hear from you. So this number is 562-286-1838, and you can text us in those questions and observations and thoughts. And then I have my friend Cynthia, who's sitting at our computer, and she waves good morning. She's going to take all those questions and observations, and she's going to send them in to me here in the studio. Now, if you're watching this live, so it is Wednesday morning, September 29th at 9 a.m. You can go ahead and text us. Use that text number. But if you're watching after the fact, we still want to hear from you. We'd love to be able to answer your questions, but we're going to ask that you email us instead, and that email address is right below the phone number, live@lbaop.org, because we're not always at that text line, but we always want to hear from you. All right, everyone, are you ready to get started? Now, I'm going to step off the screen, and we're going to bring up our Shark Lagoon, I believe. Everything's working excellent. So I'm going to step off, and we're going to bring up our Shark Lagoon. And the first thing we want to do is make some observations. Now, in between making our observations, I'm going to draw a shark as we talk about all the parts that make a shark. And if you want to draw along, you are more than welcome to. I'm going to be using just a whiteboard and a whiteboard marker. But if you have any supplies with you, paper, construction paper, scratch paper, any kind of, even a whiteboard yourself, and markers, pencils, crayons, whatever you have, you are welcome to draw along with me. But if you don't want to draw along, don't feel like you have to. It's just going to help us point out all the things that make a shark a shark. So let's start off with observations. Now, this word observation, we use it a lot, but it's actually a tool that scientists use whenever they're trying to learn or understand more about something. And by watching and joining us today, you are a scientist today. You may not have realized when you woke up this morning you were going to be a scientist, but that's the great thing, is anyone can be a scientist. And so what scientists do when we want to learn about sharks is they spend some time observing them. And making observations is just looking at something and explaining or sharing what it is that you see. So you may not know anything about sharks, but you can still make some observations. Now, this is Shark Lagoon. This is here at our aquarium. We have cameras in a lot of our exhibits, so we can watch our animals even if we're not here. But this is live. So if you came to visit us right now, we would be watching the same thing outside at our exhibit as we're watching here. Now, you might notice there's some other animals in here, and that can be part of your observation. So let's start thinking about, what do you see here? Any animals? How do you know what those animals are? What makes up their habitat? Now, you can always text us in. That text number is there. Or you can just think it. Or you can share it with, if you're in school, you can share it with a classmate or with your teacher. If you're watching at home, you can share it with an adult you're watching with. If you're watching with your pet, you can tell it to your dog or cat or fish. Or you can just say it out loud. What observations can you make? Now, I notice there's definitely some sharks in here, but they're not the only animal swimming in here. I notice some fish, a big stingray swimming by. I even notice a turtle. Did you all see that? There's a turtle all the way over here. So this is Theo, one of our olive ridley sea turtles, and he lives in the same kind of habitat as these stingrays and fish and sharks. So they all live together. Now, I also notice it's pretty bright in there. So the sun is shining down on the water. It's pretty shallow so that we can still see how light it is. And there's all these kind of structures right here. Did you notice this stuff right here? Any ideas what that could be? Yeah, that's right. It's coral. So these are tropical animals. Now, what that means, tropical, is they live in warm water. So here along our coast in Southern California, our water is what we call temperate, which means it's kind of warm, it's kind of cold. It's sort of in the middle. But these animals we're looking at, they like warm tropical water. So you could find these sharks in places like Hawaii or in the South Pacific. A lot of our animals or a lot of our exhibits are modeled after an area called Palau, where the water is nice and warm and it's like a good 78 degrees, which is nice and cozy.
I don't have a whiteboard marker. Miss McCorlick's class is asking, don't the sharks eat the fish?
Miss McCorlick's class, thanks so much for joining us today. And you had such a great question, and this is a really common question we get, but it is a very interesting thing, is you were asking, don't the sharks eat all these fish we see in here? Because for most of what we know, sharks eat fish, which we'll get to a little bit later because there might be some sharks that eat some different things. But you're right, a lot of sharks eat fish. But there's a couple of reasons that our sharks here in Shark Lagoon don't feed on the fish that we have here living with them. Now, one of the reasons is these are not the natural prey items for these sharks. So out in the open ocean in their natural habitat, they would be living with some kinds of fish that they wouldn't eat because it's just not the right kind of fish for them to eat. The other reason that they don't eat the fish in here is we feed our sharks quite a bit. Now, out in the open ocean, sharks, they eat maybe one big meal and then they don't eat for a couple days. And that's totally normal for them. Now, here at the aquarium, we offer them food a couple times a day. They may not eat every time we offer them, but we are always offering them food. And that way, they're pretty much always full and they're not looking to eat the other animals in their exhibit. And that way, we can have all these animals living together without bothering each other. All right. Now, you might notice our camera is a little bit glitchy today, so just bear with us. But I want to focus in on those sharks. So I'm going to have Tiffany bring up a picture of a shark. Maybe our black tip or our gray reef shark. Aha, perfect. I think this one's like a glamour shot. It looks like it went to a studio and it got all prepped and pampered for its photo, which isn't really true. This is in one of the exhibits here at the aquarium. But this is a gray reef shark. But this is a really good shark to look at when we're thinking about what makes a shark a shark. So the first thing I want to point out is the body shape. Now, we call it fusiform, which is a really big word. We can all say that word together, fusiform. But what it really means is it's kind of like a football shape, almost like a lemon. Now, I'm going to go over to I have a special document camera where I have my whiteboard set up, and I'm going to draw that body shape. So I have my whiteboard here, and I'm going to draw that football or lemon shape, just like that. And now let's go back to that picture of that gray reef shark and start looking at what other things we would need to add to that drawing to make it a shark. When you see an animal, like you see this picture, how do you know right away that it's a shark? Because there's lots of animals in the ocean. And some animals might look similar, but what about this animal tells you that's a shark? So first we got the body shape. But there's some other things. Now, we like to joke that a shark's favorite shape is a triangle. Did you see any triangles on this shark? Quite a few. Just shout it out.
Miss Pryharski's class wants to know how many total fish are in the Shark Lagoon.
So we're going to pause for a moment because Miss Pryharski, I hope I pronounced that right, Miss Pryharski's class wants to know how many fish are in Shark Lagoon. So let's pause for a moment while you're thinking about that shark body and go back to Shark Lagoon. And that's a great question. I don't have a specific number of fish in there. I'd say there's probably maybe a dozen, maybe 12 to 20 fish in there. It could fluctuate. Sometimes we'll get more fish and so we'll add some in. Sometimes we'll move fish around from other exhibits. And so there's kind of a fluctuating, but I would say there's maybe around 15 or so fish. I think we're all kind of nodding in agreement. That's a good guess. You can maybe count so you can watch on this video or this webcam and count how many fish you see, and maybe you'll come up with a more accurate number. And you can text us in and let us know how many fish. If you're talking about how many sharks are in here, I think we have 2 zebra sharks, we have 2 black tip sharks, we have 1 gray reef shark, and 1 sand tiger shark, which is this big fella coming around right here. So we have about 6 sharks living in this exhibit here.
Alexander from Miss Dominguez's class is now asking, how do sharks know what fish they like?
Ah, excellent. So Alexander from Miss Dominguez's class is asking, how do sharks know which fish they like? That's a great question. I bet they just try different things. I think for most sharks, they're going to go for more meatier fish. So fish that have a lot of muscle and meat, because that's where they're going to get all the nutrients to keep them satisfied before their next meal. And so they're going to go for more meaty fish than we have in here. All right, I'm going to...
Do you want me to just tell you? Camila is asking if you can explore their teeth, and Evan wants to know a little bit more about their eyes and vision.
Excellent. All right, so we got 2 more thoughts that came in, and we want to know more about their teeth and more about their eyes. I think it was Camilla and Evan. All right, so let's go back to that picture of our gray reef shark, because those are all things that are going to help us determine that this animal is a shark. So if we take a look, it's got an eye right here, right? Now, the size of the eye can be different depending on the type of shark, but sharks have really good eyesight. Now, sharks, their eyesight is best at dusk and dawn. So during the day, it's not so good. At night, not so good. But in that kind of in-between period, so when it's just before nighttime and just before the morning, that's when their eyesight is best. Now, their eyesight the rest of the time, they can still see, but it's kind of murky. Have you ever gone into the ocean and you kind of shuffled your feet and kicked up all that sand and it's kind of murky? So you can kind of see, but kind of not. That's pretty much what their eyesight is like, but it gets better when it's not super bright and not super dark out. Now, their eyes are really interesting too. They don't really blink. They don't have eyelids like us, but sharks do have something called a nictitating membrane. Now, that's a big word. We can say it all together again. Nictitating membrane. And it works kind of like an eyelid, and it covers their eye, except they can still see out of it. So imagine if your eyelid was clear. How weird would that be? But that's what it is for sharks, and it's just a protective layer. So if the shark is going to eat something like a seal or a sea lion that might have claws on their flippers, that nictitating membrane goes up, and it protects their eye so that nothing can hurt it. So speaking of eyes and even their teeth and mouth, let's add those to our shark drawing. Because right now my shark just looks like a lemon. So I am going to draw a mouth right here. And I'm going to draw that big eye. Kind of look like a cat eye. That's what we've heard before with the gray reef shark. Now the eyes look different depending on the type of shark. Some sharks, it looks more just like a big black circle. Some are a little bit smaller. But this looks pretty funny. And I think it was Camila was asking about teeth. So I'm going to add teeth in here. And I'm going to see if Tiffany can bring up a picture of maybe our sand tiger shark's mouth. Excellent. We'll take away that text line for just a moment. So take a look here. So sharks, their teeth, just like their eyes can look different depending on the type of shark, their teeth definitely are different depending on the type of shark. And that has to do with what they eat as well. So we talked about sharks eat a lot of fish. And a shark like this one, this is called our sand tiger shark. This one is Big Guy. He's our shark here. He eats fish. And we can tell that because of the way his teeth are shaped. They're really long, they're really pointy, they're skinny, and they curve inward. Did you notice that? And that helps the shark grab a hold of slippery fish, because fish, they have a layer of slime on their body, and so they're very slippery. And so having those curved teeth can help them to hold on to their food. But not all sharks have teeth that look like this. Some sharks have really teeny, teeny, tiny teeth, like the zebra shark, or this is, I believe, a Port Jackson shark. And you can see, you may not realize it, but this right here are its teeth. Now look how tiny they are. They almost look like little bubbles. And so these teeth are not going to be able to grab a hold of that slippery fish. That mouth also isn't really big enough to grab a fish. So they're going to eat more things like invertebrates, like maybe shrimp or crabs, or things they can find hiding in the sand below them, and they're going to munch on them. So they can eat crunchier things, whereas that sand tiger shark, if he tried to eat something crunchy, he'd probably break his teeth. And then some sharks, even like the great white shark, has these big triangular teeth that aren't skinny. They aren't curved inward. You can kind of peek a little bit of their teeth in here, but they're basically just a straight triangle. And they're actually serrated, which means they have tiny little teeth along the edges. And that kind of helps them cut into their food. So they eat animals that have a thicker skin, like seals or sea lions. And so the teeth really look completely different depending on the shark we're looking at. But taking a look at this great white, there's some things on its body that we can add to our shark to make it look more like a shark. Like, what are these folds right here you see? Everyone take a deep breath. Ah, that's so calming. So we use our lungs, right? We'll breathe in through our nose or our mouth, and we use our lungs to breathe. But sharks, they don't have lungs like us. And their nose is not used for the same thing our nose is used for. So they're going to use their gills to breathe. So these are their gill slits. So I'm going to come on over. I'm going to add some gill slits to my shark. And I see lots of questions coming in. I'm going to finish my drawing and then we'll get to our questions. So our shark has these gill slits and they're going to bring water in through their mouth. It's going to go over their gills, and inside their gills are these little filaments, kind of like a little brush or broom, that catch tiny bubbles of oxygen, allowing these animals to breathe. Now, my shark still looks pretty goofy because he's missing its fins. And I mentioned before they love triangles, so I'm going to draw a triangle fin up here. There's one fin. They also have their lower fins here. Take away that. So their top fin is called their dorsal fin. These side ones are called their pectoral fins. And then they've got a tail or caudal fin. It's another kind of two triangles like that. Excellent. How does that shark look? Looks like a pretty rotund shark, if you will. But it's got a lot of the basic things that make a shark a shark. So we've got gills. We've got fins. We have teeth. They have an eye. And they also actually have scales, which are really hard to see on a shark. Let's go back to any picture of a shark that we've seen. Oh, we got a close-up of skin. So let's go look. So this is actually what their skin looks like close up. Let's go to a farther out view real quick. So look, it almost looks like it's really smooth. And if you were to touch it, it'd be kind of silky. But if we were to zoom in super close, this is what it looks like. It's actually really textured and bumpy. We call their scales dermal denticles. That's another big word. We can say it all together. Dermal denticles. And we can break that down. Dermal means your skin. So we have our epidermis is our skin. So they have skin, and then denticle are your teeth. So they have skin teeth. So these are kind of like teeth. They're actually a little bit pointy. And that helps protect their body. And it also helps them be hydrodynamic. So really sleek and can move through the water really well. All right, I'm going to have Tiffany put us back in Shark Lagoon. And before we go on to our fun facts, let's take a look at some of the questions that you have sent in. So Angie asked, how many different types of sharks are there? That is a great question. There are about 400 different types of sharks. Now we say about because, have we explored the whole ocean? We definitely have not explored the whole ocean yet. So we're always learning more about sharks and discovering new species. But right now, there's about 400 different types of sharks. And Andres wants to know, do they eat other animals than fish? Absolutely. And we mentioned a couple of those different sharks, depending on the type of shark, where that shark lives, what their teeth look like. They might eat different things. So our sharks in here, we've got a good picture. So our gray reef shark, the one that just swam by over there, they're going to be fish eaters, just like Big Guy. But this one right here, this is our zebra shark. And the zebra shark has a mouth similar to that Port Jackson, where their mouth is actually right on the bottom. And they have those really tiny teeth, and so they like a little bit crunchier foods, like those shrimp, crabs, maybe even clams or mussels it can break into with those small tiny teeth. And so they're going to eat small crunchy things. So there's lots of different things that sharks can eat. All right, let's see what else. Miss Ruiz asks, what are all the types of sharks you have at AOP? Oh, excellent question. So here in Shark Lagoon, we have our zebra shark, like this one right here. We've got a black tip reef shark. We have the gray reef shark like we were looking at before. And we have our sand tiger shark here in Shark Lagoon. But also at Shark Lagoon, we have some smaller species of sharks that you can actually come and touch. You heard that right. I'm not making that up. You can come pet some sharks. So we have some smaller pools at Shark Lagoon. We don't have cameras in them, but we can show you some pictures of our bamboo sharks. Here they are, swimming around. So these are bamboo sharks. They get about 3 feet, so not very big, and these are ones you can touch. So we have bamboo sharks and epaulet sharks, which look pretty similar, just the color pattern is different on their body. So those are 2 more sharks we have. And then we have a couple other sharks too. We have some more local species to us here. As I mentioned, these are all tropical species. So here along our coast, you would find leopard sharks or horn sharks. And we have both of those sharks here. Here's a picture of a leopard shark. So this is a kelp forest animal. So they live here along our coast where the kelp forest is. We have a horn shark. We have a baby horn shark here. Looks just like this, but a lot smaller. So this is an adult horn shark. And then the other shark we have is another tropical shark, and is one of the ones I had on our list for fun facts. So let's take a look at this shark. This one is called a bonnet head. Now you might be familiar, and maybe your first instinct was to call it that's right, call it a hammerhead, and it is a type of hammerhead. But hammerhead is more of a generic term. So we actually have a bunch of different types. I want to say there's like 7 different types of hammerheads living in the ocean. And this one is the smallest of the hammerheads, and it's called a bonnet head because of the way the front of its head is shaped, kind of like a bonnet you might wear around your head. Now, the fun fact I wanted to share about the bonnet head is it's one of the only, if not the only, omnivorous sharks. Now, what does that mean? Now, we talked a lot about what they eat, right? Eating fish, eating crabs, eating shrimp, eating seals and sea lions. All those sharks eat meat, and that makes them a carnivore. Now, you at home, or at school, you might eat meat. You might only eat vegetables, making you an herbivore. Or you might eat both, an omnivore. Someone who is an omnivore eats both meat and veggies. So you eat everything. Now, most sharks, they're just straight carnivores. Ooh, here's a really good video. Thanks, Tiffany. It's so beautiful. Now, this one's pretty small. It's only about, I think, maybe 3 or 4 feet long. Not very big. But this shark is the only one that we have discovered that eats both meat and algae, making it an omnivore, eating both meat and plants. Now, most sharks I mentioned are carnivores, so this fun fact is that the bonnethead is the only omnivorous shark in the ocean, which is pretty cool to think about how many different things sharks can eat. Not only meat, but there's other things they can eat as well. Excellent. All right, let's see some more questions. Ms. Purasaki's class asks, how many teeth do sharks have? Oh, too many for us to count. Sharks can have an average of 30,000 teeth in their lifetime. Now, if we're trying to imagine that number, it's 30,000. 30,000 teeth in their lifetime. They basically just keep regrowing their teeth. So for us, we have our baby teeth. You might still have your baby teeth. And then when they fall out, you grow your adult teeth, like all of mine are my adult teeth. And if I were to lose one of these teeth, I would need to get an artificial one that's not real, put in, because I can't grow a brand new tooth after my adult teeth. But sharks, they never run out of teeth. It's almost like a conveyor belt. One tooth pops up, and then the next one is ready, and the next one, and the next one. And that's because of what their jaw is made of. Now, everyone go ahead and touch your jaw. So our jaw is made of bone, as our whole skeleton is. But sharks, their skeleton is made of cartilage, which is what we have in the tip of our nose or our ears, which if you wiggle your ear, it's really soft and bendy. So imagine their teeth are in this soft and bendy material. It doesn't stay very well. And so every couple of bites of food they take, their teeth are going to fall out. But that way they have more teeth to fill in, so they never run out of teeth. So about 30,000 teeth in their lifetime. All right, Sophia asks, can sharks hear? Oh, that's an excellent question. They can. And there's actually kind of almost 2 ways they can hear. So sharks actually have inner ears. Not big ears like us. But they also have something called a lateral line. Now, if we go back to my picture of Theo is trying to steal the show right now. So if we go back to my picture, I can draw the lateral line, and then we'll take a look at a shark, and we'll see kind of where it is. But fish, sharks included, have this line going down their body. Actually, you know what? Most of the time, it's kind of like, it's really faint, and it's almost like a dotted line. And it doesn't hear the way we hear, but it senses vibrations. There you go. It senses vibrations, which is sort of the way that we're hearing. So they can feel what's around them. So they're not going to be hearing sounds through the lateral line, but they're going to be able to feel what's around them, which is sort of a way for them to kind of explore and know what's in their surroundings. So they can hear. Oh, here we go. We can kind of see it's sort of around where this color changes. So it's really hard to see the exact line, but it tends to be right here in the middle of their body. All right, Alex wants to know, how many gallons of fish do sharks eat? Oh boy, that is an excellent question. I'm going to throw that out to our office for a moment. Does anyone know how much our sharks eat? So like I said, for most sharks in their natural habitat, they'll eat one big meal. So maybe a bunch of fish all at once. We're going to try and look up and see if we can figure out about how much a shark eats. Because I'm not sure how much we feed our sharks and how much they eat in the open ocean. But I do know that they'll basically have one big meal, and then they don't eat for a couple of days because they're still digesting, and then they'll eat again. So they're not constantly eating.
They only consume 0.5 to 3% of their weight.
Ooh. So Cynthia told me they only consume about 0.5 to 3% of their body weight daily. Cynthia, can you look up how much humans eat about? So we're going to compare it to how much we eat. So think about how much you eat in a day, and we're going to compare it percentages.
3 to 4 pounds a day. Let me look up the percentages.
All right, we're going to work on the percentages. Alex, we'll come back to that. In the meantime, I'm going to move on to the next question. So Miss Chun asks, how do I know it's a shark and not a dolphin out in the ocean? And that is a great question. And there's a couple ways we can tell, but I'm going to show you the easiest way to tell. So both of those animals are going to have that big triangular dorsal fin. But you can watch how their tail moves. So everyone take your hands and put them flat like this and move them up and down. This is how a dolphin swims. Dolphins and whales, mammals basically, living in the ocean, they move their tails up and down, make big splashes in the water. Now if we watch how our sharks swim, do you notice their tail moving in the same direction? No, they move side to side. Clap your hands together and move them side to side. So up and down means dolphin, side to side means shark. The other thing is dolphins, they're going to come up and down in the water like this. It's called porpoising, and that's often how they move really fast from one place to another. If you see a shark in the ocean at the surface, it might just glide by, sticking its dorsal fin, that top triangular fin, up a little bit out of the water, but they definitely aren't going to be porpoising the way that a dolphin moves.
For humans, 2.6%.
All right, so for humans, we eat about 2.6% of our body weight daily. For sharks, it's about 0.5 to 3%. So if you think about how much you eat in a full day, that's about how much sharks eat per meal. But like I said, we eat that every day, but sharks, they don't eat every day. So they eat that much, and then they digest it for a couple days, and then they might eat some more. All right, Miss Dominguez's class asks, how old are they when they're full size? That's a great question, and that actually depends on the type of shark. So the lifespan of sharks can vary greatly depending on the species. Like the Greenland shark, not one that we have here, this is a deep water shark, they can live a couple hundred years or more. And so as they mature, they grow, is going to be a lot longer, right? Because they have a much longer lifespan, whereas some sharks, they only live about 25, 30 years, and so they're going to mature or become an adult much faster. So it really just depends on the species or the type of shark. All right. Miss McCall's class asks, what is their lifespan? Excellent. We just answered that question. Perfect. Perfect timing. All right. Pierce asks, do sharks eat other sharks? Interesting. They can. Sharks are often what we call an opportunistic feeder. So I mentioned before how they kind of have their favorite fish and they know what they like and they don't. But a lot of sharks are opportunistic feeders, which means if there's food in front of them, they're going to eat it. Because if they don't eat that and they're holding out for something better, they may never find that food. And so a bigger shark looking for food might find a smaller shark and it might become its meal. We're going to watch some feeding happening here in our tropical gallery. So there's our zebra shark. Oh, there it is. Got some food in its mouth. And then we're going to go to our sand tiger shark. Grabbed its food. Mia asked, what is their nose for? Because that's right, I mentioned it works different from our nose. So our nose serves two purposes for us, right? We can breathe with our nose, but we can also smell with our nose. Now sharks, their nose only serves one purpose for them. The only thing that a shark's nose is good for is smelling. Because the breathing is all taken care of by their gills. Their gills are used for breathing. Their nose is used for smelling. Their nose is kind of like a C-shaped, and the water is going to come in and go out, and they're going to be able to smell. But they have an excellent sense of smell. They can smell 1 drop of blood in 1 billion drops of water, which is kind of like me smelling a hamburger cooking at our parking structure, which is across the street in another building. That's pretty far, and I definitely couldn't smell a cheeseburger cooking over there. But they have really good sense of smell. All right, so we are just about out of time. But I am so glad you all participated. We had so many great questions. We didn't really get to those fun facts, but that whole point is to talk about what you all want to talk about. So if you have more questions, feel free to either text them in the next couple minutes, and Cynthia will get back to you, or go ahead and email us. I'll have Tiffany put up that email and text line. We're also asking teachers if you can text in how many students you have viewing with us today. That just helps us gather more information and better serve our community. Excellent. There's that text line. Well, thank you everyone so much for your wonderful questions, for going on this shark exploration with us. I hope you enjoyed it. Tune in at 10 o'clock. We have another program. Cynthia's going to be teaching a bilingual craft class, and we're going to make a really cool, really fun craft. So tune in then. We'll see you later. Bye, everyone.